We cannot have open minds, open hearts, and open doors and be fearful of what may come in or who may come in or what idea may face us. You see, we're people that are solid in our foundation. We know our DNA. We know who we are, where we've come from. We know where we're going. That's why we're not afraid to meet anybody face to face. We've got a founder that is the only founder of a Christian denomination that is truly a church planter. We also have incredible roots that tie us not only to our own denomination, but denominations before us, like the Church of England. We are people with deep roots. We are people of the United Methodist Church. If you would with me, back up into chapter 3. Up to this point, we've kind of seen the history of Moses being told quickly in 2 to 3 chapters. We find out that the Israelites have been in captivity now for about 400 years. And that looks so horrible, but do you know that even before that, the story begins where God is working through a man named Abraham, making a promise to him, a covenant? Do you know that in that covenant, where 2 people agree and sign on the dotted line a contract in our terms, that God doesn't make Abraham sign it? It's true. When God takes the animal and separates it into 2 and he makes a covenant with Abraham saying, I will be your God, you will be my people, I'll make you more numerous than the sands on the seashore. And then God makes the promise and walks through the 2 pieces. As if to say, I've got this. As if to say, it doesn't matter if you fall short because I won't. And as God walks through the pieces of the 2 animals, it's representation of the idea that may what happens to this animal happen to me if I lie or fall short in this contract. Very interesting that God would then bring a holy and perfect Son into the picture to finish that contract. Not because he had to, not because he fell short, but because he made a promise. But here we are in Exodus, and we see all sorts of neat things where God's provision and God's word is coming forth, where his people are growing. And it seems like the more the Egyptians oppress, the more his people grow. Is that any different than today? The more the world is oppressed, the more God's people pop out. Last I heard, somewhere in China, there's like 2 million people in these home churches. Talk about oppression. I was talking with a friend, he's a professor. His last name is Bevere. He's out of East Ohio. You may know him. Who is it?
Alan.
Alan Bevere. He's a maniac. Just a maniac. He's been one of my professors for years, and he was telling me about a story how he used to take a group over to Cuba, and the Cuban government stepped in and said no more of this because we have people meeting in groups bigger than 20 or 30 people, and this is scaring us. So you cannot meet in a group more than 10. Thank you, Cuban government. You just multiplied the church. Because now instead of meeting 30, 40 at a time in a building and being more ingrown, they were forced into being smaller groups, being outgrown. Well, all throughout Genesis, leading in Exodus, we see God displaying who he is and his plan for us. That as he is multiplying Abraham's people, he has a goal in mind for them, a plan for them. That they will not just simply be his people, but that they will become a light to the nations, meaning that they will attract every person that comes in the world back to God, because they are a people of God. Well, we, the Methodist Church, are a people of God. We are a light unto the nations. And not just overseas as though we send some money here and there, but to our neighbors down the street, to our neighbors next door. You see, it's not always the size of the venture God is calling us to. It's that he's inviting us into his adventure. It's not the individual aspects or the individual ministries. This isn't about coming to a conference like this and looking at what someone's doing and stealing it and trying to can it and then reproduce it. Yeah, we put a church on the wall, so what? Wait till you see what you're doing next year. It's about being loyal to the call, and Abraham was loyal. And then we see these other people being loyal. We see Isaac being loyal, and Jacob. And as God declares himself to Moses, he reminds Moses of these covenants and these faithful people. Moses, I am the God of your father, of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It's like, here are my credentials. But as we start working through 3, we see where God now reveals himself to Moses through this burning bush. And it's a beautiful scene where God says, Moses, Moses. And he goes, oh, my gosh, a burning bush. I better check it out. And he walks over and God says, whoa, stop. Take off your shoes. You're on holy ground. Let me tell you what he's really saying. He's saying, whoa, Moses, you're on Mount Horeb, the Mount of God. Welcome to my house. Won't you come inside? Son, show some respect. Take your shoes off, for my presence is holy. But I'm inviting you into it. In other words, take heed, because the God you're dealing with is not like these little pansy Egyptian gods. Yeah, we've heard about him. Ra, the sun god. He's got a kid, Pharaoh. Koske, got a death, got a Nile. Yeah. We've heard about them. They're nothing more. They don't make you take off your shoes in their presence. I do. He then unveils his plan to Moses, which is why he's there. Moses, my people are crying out to me. So I've come down to do something about it. Don't you love our God that when he sees turmoil and frustration and struggle, he doesn't just sit there on his throne going, that's what happens when you fall. No, he comes down. He actually wraps himself in flesh and comes down. Emmanuel. There was a moment in my life where I had spent 13 years working in the local church. I've been all over California. I've now come to the Midwest. I've been in non-denominational denominations. I've actually been baptized Presbyterian. I know, hallelujah. Can I say it was predestined?
Yeah.
But by choice, I came to the Methodist Church. But I hit a moment in my life, and I hope that you're there too. And if not, I hope you'll be there soon. But I hit a moment in my life where I just couldn't do it anymore. That my weeks started to fold into, it was all about the message or the program or the calendar. It was all about how many people showed up for worship. Guys, I'll tell you the secret. You want to boost numbers? Throw a kegger. I mean, really. OSU statistics say if you bring a keg to the parking lot, you will be the coolest kid. Why would church be any different? But it's not about that. You see, there's a goal much deeper than just providing some beverage or allowing people to have a good time. There's something that we have been entrusted with. That God has somehow come into our lives and entrusted us with his own personality, his person, his identity. We're the people of God. So as Moses is dealing with this God, God reveals his name. A personal name, I am the great I am. From somebody that grew up in the Egyptian courts celebrating and worshiping the different gods of Egypt, I bet it was weird to hear this God say, my name is self-existent. I have no beginning, middle, or end. I am God. In fact, if you want to find my beginning, take anything else and trace its beginning. It's me. And here's the best part. In the Hebrew, when he says, I am the great I am, or I am, there's actually a connector in there that says, I am with you. The first thing he tells Moses is who he is personally, inviting him into his presence. The very next thing he does is tell Moses that he'll be with him. All while he gives him a plan. But drop down to verse 11 in chapter 3, and I love Moses' response. But Moses says to God, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the Israelites out of Egypt? How many times does the question turn from God to us? God just said who he was, but that's fine. Yeah, you're God in the heavens. Creator of all things, sure, though, self-existing God, but who am I in this? And then how easy it is to say, who am I in my ministry to do this? See, the Methodist Church has this beautiful slogan, this idea, this mission, this vision to go and make disciples for Jesus Christ. And when we get in trouble, we run to it and we quote it to each other as if to say, back off, I'm doing it. And then once a year, although now it seems like once a week with the way our new data systems go, we have to now talk about numbers. Everything's about numbers. But yet we'll come to a conference like this, or we'll hear from our DSR bishop and say, it's not about numbers, as long as you turn it in. And we run back. But you know what? It's not even about the mission and vision. It's about where that mission and vision has its root. You see, we're not just Methodists because we're Methodists. We're Methodists because of the long lineage of people that have gone before us that have laid out a path as being faithful to God and the calling that God has given each one of them. And the beauty for our denomination is that that tree branch is so wide. I heard someone describe the Methodist Church one time to me saying it's this large umbrella that makes room for so many people. And I don't even like some of them. Isn't that beautiful? But that's who we are.
Amen.
Now here's God saying, listen, you want the mission and vision? Moses, I've come down. I've come to heal my people, to save my people, to redeem my people, to bring my people home, to draw them into me. I have got this. I'm just letting you know because I want to invite you into it with me. Oh, not because I need you. I learned that the hard way. My senior year at Loyola University, I graduate. The very last class, the last 2 minutes, Dr. Michael Anthony stands up and looks at the class of Christian Ed majors before him and says, I want you all to remember one thing. As you go out into this world, just remember for the next 5 years you will be worthless to everyone, including God, because you have no experience. Is that true or what? The next thing he said is, and if you start to get arrogant, just remember that if God can use an axe,